Alrighty, everybody. Welcome in. It is Thursday, October 26th, 2023. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey there, Bjorn. Thank you for being here. We're going to go ahead and do a quick review for yesterday so we can get into the pre-market for this morning. I want to talk about basically what we were looking at here on our charts yesterday. And so this is the picture we had. All right, we were trading inside of the range from the day before where we tried to attempt to break out. Remember, we came up, that red box right there was the expected level we wanted to see the bulls get through, and they peeked into it, failed, and then right at the end of the day, this was I think Tuesday, they popped up and got to a new high, and then again, that was like a double peak above and fail pattern, right? So didn't look great for the bulls, but in the overnight session going into the pre-market for yesterday, before the market opened, we were still holding above our first line in the sand, the bear's first task down here, around 42. And it looked like maybe the bulls would get through this magenta line, 50% of the day before's price action. That would open us up for a push to the bull's first task, which would be to get through the high and the scaffolding up around 42.90. Well, what ended up happening yesterday is we failed right in front of this magenta line here. So the bulls were still holding in the overnight session, and then as the market opened, the whole thing just dropped out. Okay, so let's look at the details of that. And you can see here, above us, the bulls' first task has shifted slightly. Getting above 50% of the previous day, scaffolding swing area around 42.65, 67, and the previous daily close, which was just a couple ticks above that, would be a great sign for the bulls. Well, what happened? Let's look at the details here. 42.65 to 67 was what we wanted to see the bulls get through to have any faith coming into the open, right? So as we got ready for the open here, here's the overnight bounce. Here's the push, still holding above the major 61.8 retrace of the larger leg we were in. And then as we were getting to the open, there's 65 to 67. That's what we wanted to see the bulls get through to have any faith in them. And the whole thing just sold off. Probably a couple of minutes, a half hour, actually an hour before the open, it just started to fail down below VWAP. Came and tested the holy orange power level to the tick. And then finally the market opened and we just started rallying lower. Okay, so out of the open, it should have been pretty clear what you wanted to do. This was our first line we wanted to see the bulls get through. They pull back to the Hopal, would have been a great spot to get long to see if it would pop up into it, but it just failed. So once the market got through the Hopal, you got your crossover of your moving averages, and the movement was very, very heavy. Getting short would have been the game, right? So getting short off the FMA, one tick of risk. Getting short off the back end of one of these pockets we expected to potentially hold, which it did come in and hold and hold and hold and peek into it and hold, but then failed right off. Could have got short in here, and then probably the sexiest thing you could have done yesterday was be patient and wait for the test of the 200 as it was aggressively selling off out of the open here. To be patient, wait for the kiss up into the 200, and bam, there you have it to the tick. Not even a one tick break through the 200. You could have grabbed about a 10, 11, 12-point sell-off to the low of the morning there. All right, so some decent opportunity to get short. Again, the amount of risk you had to take at each of the tests of the FMA and the 200 was so small that it was basically non-existent. And you could have captured, if you got short out of the open off that first FMA test where we did get a nice 512 divergence as it was testing there, you would have captured just under 20 points to the downside. Okay, and then we get our phase change about 2 hours or an hour into the open here, and we get a little pop, right? And this is like the in-breath for the bears, right? So we're starting, remember, peak above and fail back on, was it Wednesday? On Tuesday of this week. We get the ultimate high at 90.5 here, another peak above and fail right back into that previous range. And then we start to break down through VWAP and then push down, continue to come lower. This is your typical healthy sell-off for an in-breath for the bears to regain some energy to then continue to swat it back lower, right? So we got a little bounce here. If I go back to where we were, we got this little bounce, came up, and didn't even have enough steam to get back up to the hopeful. So it unfortunately, shorting the back end of VWAP here probably didn't work out for you. Shorting the scaffolding got you a little 5-point pullback, 5-6-point pullback, and then the VWAP, unfortunately, they did pop right through it by 3-4 points, holding it to the upside, and then finally the failure happened, right? So all up in here might have been a little bit tricky, but once we started to fail back down, as we start to get lower highs, lower lows in the market here, right here, and we got down below VWAP, down below the 200 again, should have been pretty clear that this was just a little in-breath for the bulls, or for the bears, to regain some energy, and then you could have been getting back on the short train there. Again, holding the back end of most of our levels, holding the back end of the 200 so even if you were a little bit iffy in the middle of the morning here, when it started to show its face and actually hold below VWAP and continue to pull back lower, there's your opportunity off the 200. Again, barely a 2-point break, maybe just under 2 points, and then we come down, and then the two most notable little bounces over here, right off the retracement we had on our charts at 19 quarter that we were watching for a couple days, because I think we actually came into that a couple days ago, and then right into our swing level to the tick. I'm telling you guys, this is not like coincidence. Like, this stuff happens so often. To the tick, right off the swing, and tries to bounce and then fails off the 200 again. And then finally the low of the day, just about 1.5 points from our next scaffolding. And this was the major area of support. So if we go back to the drawings here, that right there is our second task for the bears, right? So first task for the bears was to get down through that 61.8 retrace at 42.39, which again, if we go back here, was this area, right? So we expected maybe there would be support right around this pocket, around 40 to 42-ish, but the bears just swatted right through it and then came up and just could not hold above it. Notice what happened. The bulls got through that area and they actually held on the pullbacks, holding, and then lower high, and then they just continued with the down move. So they came in to 19 quarter. That was one of our retracements we were watching. Came right to the tick to our swing we were watching at 13 quarter to the tick. And then finally the low of the day, again going back to this picture, was this major second task for the bears. And interestingly enough, that was the biggest bounce here coming into the overnight session, or coming into the close yesterday, right? So we come into 06 quarter here. Yeah, it wasn't to the tick, bounce, and that was it. But we held this major area of support and resistance in the market. So basically the high of the day was this pocket, right? In the overnight session, we came in to this pocket around 50% of the day before in our scaffolding. So basically the high of yesterday was our scaffolding, and the low of the day was our 06 quarter target for the bears down here, which was another scaffolding level. So again, just another day where we nearly nailed the high and the low in terms of very discrete levels that we were targeting for either side. And then at the end of the day, as you can see, pretty damn choppy there. You know, nothing notable to really recognize inside of all this stuff. But I do think if you were a bear targeting to our first or our second task here for the bears yesterday, you would have took profit at the low of the day, right? And would have been kind of like a profit, unless you wanted to hold through the overnight, which is a different story. So I've been blabbering on for long enough here on this review. Overnight session, there's your hold off the back end of VWAP. For the continuation down, notice that if you were over here, just when the market was opening for Globex last night, there's your crossover. We gapped down, we held the low of the day before nearly to the tick, and then we were popping right up into the VWAP, the FMA there. That would have been a good little spot to try short. You would have captured just about a 10-point sell-off from there. Did come right back and then continue to sell off. So for me, a lot of times, once I capture 5-10 points, I'm not looking to take more risk. But maybe if my stop was up above this swing high, I'd still be in and I would have been able to capture the rest of this. I wasn't here trading at 5 o'clock last night. So, but that was a great opportunity to notice the crossover, notice the gap down, notice the hole below VWAP to be a bear through the overnight session, and you would have made some good money. And if you had our levels on your chart and you knew where to take profit, you should have taken profit right in front of our major retracement here around 73, and you would have again been a profit for capturing the low of the overnight session now, right? So we've held, interestingly enough, it seems like all these levels that we have on the chart are right where we get our major rotations. So beautiful hold from 06 quarter yesterday, now beautiful hold in the overnight session, right off of nearly to the tick, that major retracement there at 73. And because this is a major retracement for a 1,000-point push in the market, there is a little bit of variance on either side here. Like we're trying to pinpoint one tick from a leg that literally spans. If we go up here, guys, take a look. This leg that we're looking at here, this is right here. The low of last year at 3,600, all the way up to the high this year, just over 4,600. So we have a 1,000-point push in the market, and then we're down, pulling and bouncing right now, nearly to the tick, interestingly enough, around the 50% retracement of this whole push. Okay? So that's where we are right now, right at 50% of this huge rally that we got from the lows of last year. And it's basically 1 year later. This was October of 2022. We got this beautiful push. And by the way, beautiful, and let me see if I can draw this, beautiful push, whoops, beautiful push, pull back to the 50, 61, and bounce out, right? So there is technically a first leg, our pullback, our in-breath, our second leg here, and then you have the whole thing, right? And like I said, we're right at the 50% at the moment. So when we come down to the short time frames, that is that line you see here that we're holding right now, right? Nearly to the tick. I would say within 2 points on either side of that is probably perfect, right? Because we're, again, looking at a 1,000-point leg. So still, despite that, nearly to the tick, we're holding that level. So that brings us into this morning. We got a double bottom from the overnight lows. We're breaching back through VWAP. It's been trouble all night until now, getting up through one of our major swings, support and resistances here at 89.5. Notice how it pulled back to the tick, and now we're pushing higher. And this is where we are coming into the open. So let's go ahead and do our pre-market for this morning. And there's actually, I think there's one other thing. Yeah, so I just want to bring this up before we go to today, and that is, this is Monday's picture when we sent this out on Monday. On Monday, our first task for the bulls was, again, that pocket 35 to 45 or 37 to 45, right? First task for the bears, there's 06 quarter. Second bear target, 41.73. So on Monday, our target to the downside for the bears was 41.73, and here we are in the overnight session, bouncing right off 41.73 for the most significant bounce since yesterday's open. Okay, so pretty awesome stuff. So enough with rubbing myself on the back. Let's go ahead and get into the pre-market for this morning.